Here with Kevin Culjat and Pat McEvoy with Rocco'S. We got to talk about the history of the Jello shot challenge. It lives in infamy at this point, in my opinion. At this point in College World Series lore, how did this whole entire concept come to be?
Pat, I'll take it away here, kind of how the original origins and roots were again.
I wanted rally shots for that first ever series that was down here between South Carolina and Florida, so we made the Florida fans some rally shots, and they were like, the South Carolina fans found out, and they're like, well, we got to have our rally shots too, and they're sending them back and forth, and it was all fun and games, and everybody liked it. So the following year, I was like, saw some Dueling Pianos guys out west at DJ's Dugout, and they were playing Let's Go Jays and Go Big Red on the night Creighton and Nebraska played basketball, and I was like, these guys are geniuses. Whoever had more money in their tip jar, just people were tripping over themselves to throw money in the tip jar. So I was like, man, what if we do that for all 8 teams for College World Series? So, we made 8 different shots and named them for each team's mascot and kind of went from there. And the first couple of years it was, people would just come in and see it. It was, maybe we'd get 200, 300, 400 shots. I mean, it was nothing too crazy. But as the years progressed, when the old bar closed and Kevin took over, he said, hey, how did you do that? And I explained it to him. He's like, great idea. He's like, but what if we just use these Jello shots? They're pre-made. We can hand them out by the 20. That way you're not having to individually, you're not setting up, all the shot glasses and having to pour them and then wash the shot glasses. So he's like, what if we just use the Jello? And I said, hey, that's easier for me as a bartender, so that's perfectly fine with me. And that was the origin story of the Jello and the Jello shot challenge for sure.
Yeah, it was just way simpler than trying to make bottles of stuff while you're on the fly and having to put out shot glasses. So we just put some canisters up there. My daughter wrote the names on some stuff we bought from Sam's Club and ran some Jello. It was just kind of a gift. And then the Arkansas guys showed up.
Yeah, they really did it. They sold us out of Jello the first weekend that they were here, and so one guy was buying hundreds at a time, and this was the first time that anyone had bought like that amount. So you're like, oh man. So yeah, there's pictures. We were just down in Arkansas this weekend for the regional games, and everyone was. I was there when you guys ran out of Jello. They were showing me the pictures of us pouring hundreds of shots the old school way, and so then we knew we kind of had something, and that's when I knew Kevin was right, that we needed a quicker way to distribute these things, and we needed more Jello. So
yeah, and that was, again, we just kind of we weren't keeping track at the time. The bartenders just kind of want to know, how many shots is this guy going to buy? So there was a number floating out there. So we kind of knew that there had been a substantial amount of Jello that had been purchased by Arkansas, but didn't really have anything to do with it at that point. So the following year was when they had the last year that they had the weekend off. So you'd play Friday, I believe, and then you had Saturday, Sunday off, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you got 2 days you're in town, there's nothing going on. So I just went home and I said, well, I'm going to make a little 8.5 by 11 flyer. So say there's a Jello shot record, Arkansas, put it up and see what happens. So we posted it around the bar, and then it just exploded in 3 days' time.
Yeah, so they knew. They're like, well, we can hit that. One guy already bought 400 or 300, whatever it was. So we can beat that. We can beat that. So they weren't competitive against. They were only competitive against themselves at that point in time. But they were here and they were hungry. So that was they were gonna do it either way. And then the following year, obviously, we'd started to get a little bit of buzz, and Mississippi State comes into town, and they see the 864 from Arkansas, and they're like, easy peasy. First time they'd ever won a championship in any sport, men's or women's. So they obviously were going for it, and they come in full force. I mean, you're walking up and down the street and you see guys sleeping in their cars with Mississippi plates. So they were here to party the whole time. So they obviously go 2,965. They hit that number, and they say, this is unbeatable. This will never be touched ever again. Like, this is, we just basically, we almost doubled and a half the total. Like, this is nuts. Well, then, like, some of the other SEC, sports media people caught on to it. And so the next year I started the Twitter account for it.
Yeah, and so I thought, I'm going to be a genius. So instead of a flyer, I made a little plaque that just said Jello shot all-time record. And then we put the board up there that, we decided, hey, we'll grab a board from Home Depot and write the names in, because everybody wants to know who's drinking what. And maybe if we get lucky, somebody might, beat the record. And then we got Arkansas game 1 on that Friday. And I think they had the party room.
Yeah.
And between 9 o'clock and noon, when they were going to play, they had already shattered the record. So that's when everything really, really broke loose, and social media took over, and then it just exploded. Yeah.
When you set out to do this, obviously this came from just a random idea. Could you have imagined that it would be what it is today and be such a staple for the longest standing tradition in sports in Omaha?
I thought it was a way to like, people are competitive. We're all competitive down here with each other, and we're all, we all played sports and coached for a long time, and so I knew competition would drive it a little bit, but it would only go so far, and so it was like, all right, this is cool, but what's the next step? The next step was, when we really got big on social media, and Kevin and Bonnie decided, hey, this is way beyond anything we expected. We're gonna have to do something cool with this newfound, fame or infamy, regardless of how you want it. So
either way you put it, I mean, we weren't selling Jello to make a living. Obviously, it was just fun, and the fun exploded, and social media took it to a whole nother level. And so at that point, when you realize now you're selling thousands of Jello shots, so I'm sitting at home the very first Saturday. What am I going to do? Do we give back to the teams? Do we give back to the players? What do you do? And then I got online and just started looking, and that's when we found the food banks. And so you get on the food bank at Arkansas, and you get in the food bank at Ole Miss and these places, and you realize how important it is to these people. And we were just coming off of COVID, and a couple things that kind of got to me there was when I was looking at the food banks. At Ole Miss, 49% of the people that were using the food bank were actually employees, because you forget, when COVID hit and those schools shut down. So as soon as we saw that and I realized what a big need that was for those schools, it was a no-brainer. So I woke Bonnie up and I said, okay, let's just run this through the rest of the series. These two schools are obviously tearing it up, and we'll donate to each one of their food banks, and it'll be a good thing for everybody. And then it just continued to explode.
Yeah. And then, it got so big that Kevin was like, well, it's not even going to work behind this bar anymore. So we had to build an ancillary bar and part of the bar. And then LSU shows up the next year, and obviously they go just bonkers wild. I mean, 68,888. But we realized that bar wasn't big enough. So Kevin's like, we got to build a bigger bar. And so in our party room is now the Jello shot room. That's what all the signage says. So on Monday, we'll build another 22, 24-foot bar so we have enough space to handle it all. And every year it just kind of, last year we sold more than the year before, even though we didn't have an LSU buying 68,888. We had Tennessee and Texas A&M going back and forth throughout that final, and whoever won that game we knew was going to be the winner. But that competition breeds it. But so many people are like, Todd Graves from LSU, Gordon McKernan, all those guys that made the real big purchases, they're like, we wouldn't do it if you guys weren't cool about it, if you weren't giving back. And again, that's Kevin and Bonnie all the way. Like the competition is cool, but now the charitable aspect of it, we figured it out the other day. It's been since 2001, it's been over $350,000 we've raised between this stuff and the ancillary stuff we do. So
which is incredible. I never would have thought in my wildest dreams, So, again, once we went through that second year and everything went good, now we're like, okay, let's just give every team, a chance to help their food banks. So obviously what we do now is, for every shot sold, regardless of, how you finish, by a shot, your school is going to get $1 towards their food bank. And then we also donate 50 cents for every shot sold locally. So, 2 years ago, we wrote a $47,000 check to the food bank of the Heartland. And last year we split it up between Creighton, UNO, and Iowa Western. They each got a little over $16,000 each for their food banks. So it's nice to kick back locally as well. A lot of local people jump in just like the schools do. So an opportunity to cover that broad of a spectrum and to raise that amount of money in such a short time and to give back, to food insecurities is something that I know we're real proud of, and we just want to try to push it as far as we can.
Yeah, I had a question about that too. I mean, obviously the camaraderie and the competition is super important, but I think that the element of giving back to the community is also important to a lot of the fans that come through here in one way, shape, or another. So how important is that, just the community element surrounding the whole entire shot challenge?
Yeah, I think it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get to where we're at now if it wasn't that. If we just were like, these people in Omaha, they're selling these Jello shots and they're reaping all the benefits. Like that doesn't make it cool. And we've tried to, people are like, oh, what you should do? I hear that 600,000 times, and it's like, man, yeah,
you need a donation box next.
Exactly. So
ideas.
Everybody wants to do all these things, and we just want to keep it as pure and simple. It's just fun, and it goes to a really good cause. And we're not looking to sell advertising on the board. I mean, the stuff we get asked is
people want to buy the board at the end of it,
Yeah.
and it's a $40 whiteboard. You know what I mean? It's at the end of the day, that's what makes it cool, is the fact that we're trying to keep it as simple, like Kevin said, and we're raising money for charity. That's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes it. Once you start to try to overwork something or find the new angle or do that thing, we'll tweak it. We'll make it cooler. In the party room now, we have Marucci spins us bats every year for the championship. So we have the LSU champion bat, we have the Tennessee, we have all those bats that they send us every year. So we'll hang those up. We do an all-time top 8, so you know where your school ranks all time, not just this year. We hang the Rocco'S on the road banner because we've done some events down in Baton Rouge in Arkansas where we raised some extra money, just taking the Jello shots down there, making them down there, and having them sell them. So we have Dylan Cruz signed a jersey for us, the center fielder for LSU. Now the Nationals, he signed a jersey for us, and we hang that up on the wall. So we have the big checks, obviously, all the money that Kevin and Bonnie have donated. So that's we have all that stuff up there, and it makes it. But the checks, the donations, that we make it as cool as we can, ancillary, but it is, because it's a tradition now, we try to make sure that we treat it as such. We treat it with the same amount of respect.
And the best part, obviously, for us is, after you write the check or the checks, you hear back from these people. I know Tennessee said last year, that between the money we donated and the donations in kind they get, they figured they could do 100,000 meals, which I think is phenomenal. And down at Ole Miss, we doubled what they did in a year. I mean, they were able to build and actually physically build a bigger food pantry. So when you get the letters and the phone calls, it's wonderful, because it really means a lot to those people who do this every day. And they don't have a lot of opportunity to get an influx of large checks, I don't believe. So when you're able to help those people out. So, the last couple weeks after the series is over and you start hearing from those people, and we don't normally tell them it's coming. The check just kind of shows up. So it's kind of like Santa. So, it works out great. And that's the part that my wife and I enjoy the most, when those people, are just so thrilled to have, the extra thing that they normally wouldn't, which is all a part of what we started here selling Jell-O. It's just strange.
It all started with Jell-O.
You're going to get the moniker Jell-O Santa or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's gonna be
That's the new idea. That'll be next
Great.
year.
What is the largest order, single order, that has come in for Jello shots?
So that'd be Gordon McKernan. He's a attorney and a big booster at LSU. He bought 8,888. That was the phone number to his thing ends with 8888. So all of his branding has the 8888 on it. And so he bought it, and we got him behind the bar, and he was leading the Go Tigers chant. We play the song. He's getting to hand some out. The thing about that, though, is we tell all those guys, we can fit couple hundred people in the bar. We can't physically give you 8,888 shots. And this is the big misconception. A lot of the times, I'm glad you asked that, because people are like, oh, those guys, they all phoned it in. No one phoned it in. Everyone that ordered the shots was there, and every one of them got, me and Kev came up to and said, we can do it, but we can't physically hand you this many shots. We can hand you this many, and then an hour later we can do another round, and an hour later we can do another round, but we can't physically do this many because there's only so many people that can be in the bar.
Yeah, and the people that are doing it like that, they understand. They're doing it for the notoriety, of course, but for the donation as well. And so, when I tell these people, well, what do I get if I buy 5,000 shots? Well, you get one round of shots, and then 3 hours later you get one round of shots, and the rest goes in the trash. But you're going to donate this much money, and I'm going to donate this much money. So if you're good with it, I'm good with it. And they are 90% of the time. So that you have to you take that opportunity, and people may say, well, it's why do you let guys do that many? Well, it goes to charity. I'm not going to turn down $6,000 or $8,000. It's going to go to a food bank somewhere. So the big ones are few and far between. They're fun when they happen, but we turn down, or people don't do it as much as you think they would, because we can't physically handle 4,000 shots.
And last year I think the biggest order was maybe 500 or 1,000, and that's what we told them. We literally had a timer, and we're like, hey, every hour I'll give you a couple hundred, and you can pass them out, and new people will be in and out. I mean, the turnover in here during College World Series, I mean, especially that day, I mean, there's so many people coming in and out, so we're like, all right, and they're 13% ABV or something
Yeah.
like that. You're not getting too tuned up on these things.
Yeah, and a lot of people will do it before the game. Then 3 hours later, when everybody comes back, they want to buy one more round for their fans, and then that's it. And they're comfortable with it. And they know going in what they're going to get. So again, it's an opportunity for them to have some fun, to support their school, and to help the charity at the same time. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
Definitely. What's the process for updating the board for the current year?
So
Behind us is
the
2024.
board, obviously. So this weekend, the first pitch of Super Regionals, the board will get completely
Get erased.
wiped, and we'll write the 25 up there, and we'll, as teams qualify, we'll be sitting down here watching baseball all weekend because we're fans of baseball, we're fans of college baseball, but the teams that show up make a big difference to us too. There's some teams that we know travel really well, and some teams just don't. They'll bring a small but mighty fan base, and we love them both, but we know exactly what to expect based on the teams, and so we'll be watching it, and as a team qualifies, their name will go up on the board, and I'll say, hey, your last time you were here was 2021. Your all-time Jello shot record is this. We'll see if you get that way. They have something to shoot for. If they don't think they can make the 68,888, they at least have. Can we beat the last batch that came through? Can we beat ourselves? Can we beat the fans from 4 years ago? So we update it like that throughout the weekend until we have the whole thing, and and then it's go time next week, obviously.
Yeah, and then every time you order a shot during the series, then obviously you have to choose the team. So it physically gets rang into the register under the team you choose.
Oh, wow.
So we can't ring it in until you give us a name. And then Pat calculates all that. It stays in the register, and then we used to try to update a lot, but now it's so huge. We update twice a day or 3 times a day.
We try to do 3 times. Yeah, before we did 9, 1, 5, and 9, just for the ease of it. But 9 a.m. We're not packed yet at 9, so it's nice to get the update from like a new team. But also I like to sleep, so I don't always want to close the bar down at 4 a.m. and then come back at 9 a.m. just to update the board. So we do it like 3 times a day, and we just kind of wait to see when people, because the crowd wants to see it, and so we don't want to do it for 2 people that want the board updated, because everyone wants it updated every time they buy a shot. But we wait, and that's one of the most, it gets you amped up to keep going,
it's
because
fun.
Everybody crowds around. I erase everything, and I start with 8 and go all the way up to 1, and teams are jockeying for position, so they know, like, oh man, like if we're here, then we got to be here. Oh, we're getting closer, and they, some teams know when they made a run, so we'll update it. And as soon as I write number 1, whoever it is, if it's Tennessee, you're here in Rocky Top. If it's LSU, you're here in Colin, Baton Rouge. It doesn't matter who it is. They're doing their chant. They're calling the Hogs if it's Arkansas. So that everyone gets really into it, and that's again, that kind of gives you the fire.
At 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I mean, you cannot shoehorn another individual in here, and the main reason is they want to see the update of the board, which is it's all part of the fun of it. So 1 and 5 are usually for sure. Usually 1 late night, not too many in the morning anymore, because it's a 24-hour adventure now. So.
I will say, if you're a fan that's coming down to the College World Series and you have not been in here at the time that board is being updated, it is shoulder to shoulder, but it is the loudest place downtown at that point in time.
It's a must.
It's something to see for sure. Do you guys have a favorite fan base that has come through during this time of the Jello Shot Challenge era?
So it's funny, because a lot of bars pick a team and just go with. A lot of people are like, we're the official bar of whatever. We're the official bar of whatever. We said from the beginning we were never going to do that.
Never do that.
We love all teams. Like, again, we have really good memories with the Coastal Carolina fans. There wasn't 100,000 of them, but the 40 or 50 there were great people. They were all players' parents or players' siblings
awesome.
and stuff like that. And they're all good people, and they all traveled, from Conway all the way here just to see it. So we love that fan base. Me and Kevin and his sons were singing "We Are the Champions" at Lefties at the end of the night so it's
you don't really pick a team, because you've met so many people over the years, and like even Arkansas, for instance, just use them as an example. Again, when they're not here, they're still driving up from Arkansas. I mean, so you're still seeing those people, and every team's a little different. Last year, Kentucky, who wasn't here long, hadn't been here in a long, long time. Really good group of people, really nice, really fun.
The pink hats.
I mean, just every year's a different entity, and so there's really no one we like more than anybody else. It's just you get your returners and then your new people, and it's always a good blend. So, and they usually always end up at Rocco's.
That being said, I mean, we're not going to turn down another 68,888 from LSU or another, like we know the schools that will. So when we're watching the bracket play out, you're rooting for the teams that are going to come and make it a little more fun and a little bit more competitive on the Jello shot side. But it's again, we love LSU, and we went down there. We got offered a pretty good opportunity to go down there. We raised some money down there, and they, Todd Graves, the owner, Raising Cane's, about the 68, or the 6,000. He had us up in his suites, and it was like when we were down in Baton Rouge, everything was taken care of. We were just down in Arkansas this weekend in Fayetteville. Tickets were all taken care of. Everything. I mean, everybody. We have a lot of good friends from some of the big schools that buy a lot of shots, but then, like I said, we've got some good friends from some of the small schools that don't have that kind of fan base or that kind of money behind it too. So
Absolutely.
We love them all.
Jello shot challenge nationwide. Let's
Nationwide.
go.
Nationwide.
It is also the 75th anniversary of the College World Series here in Omaha. So my last question for both of you would be, what is a favorite memory for each of you during that time from the College World Series?
To me, it always goes back to Rosenblatt because I was a kid, So you just had so many good memories of going out there when it was, a straight double elimination tournament. I think you paid $5 or $6 to get in. You were there all day, every day. My buddies and I, you sit out in the right field bleachers, and you could get close to the players. And so, this is obviously tremendous location down here. It's beautiful. It's state of the art. It had to be done. But being old as I am, my memories all harken back to the old CWS days.
Yeah, I would say that's so tough because I've been behind this bar for all of them that have been down here. But I'd still say, like, just the fondest memory I have is my dad would take me to at least one game every year down at Old Rosenblatt, and that's when I fell in love with college baseball, and I've been a fan of college baseball ever since. Not just because I work across the street from it, but because that is like core memory of me and my dad going to games. His buddy Rick Knowlton, they went to every championship game for like 27 straight years. I mean, that amount of love for the game and that amount of just, like familial ties and memories, that's what does it for me. It's
such a pure event, and Omaha does it so well. I don't think you tell people and they're like, yeah, but when they get here, like, holy, that was pretty awesome, So I've never had anybody who came in for it that walked away and wasn't like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Again, I think it's just the pure aspect of it.
And to that end, it's great because it's a baseball event, and the real fans aren't fans that are like fighting each other, and the players aren't. I mean, they all played travel ball growing up together for the most part. Or they've all known each other through some system, or had the same coach. And so a lot of the times you see fan bases in here, and rarely do you see, after a while people get a little chirpy or whatever, but almost never do you see any real fights or anyone getting super upset, because baseball fans, and again, I love college football too, but there's a little bit difference in the fan base there. It's a family friendly event, and it's a fun event to be down here for, because the College World Series is so much different in terms of culture.
Absolutely. Well, you've heard all these fantastic answers, the community surrounding the Jello Shot Challenge, the lore of the Jello Shot Challenge at this point. But if you have not been down to Rocco's, make sure that you come down here during the College World Series at any point, because it's going to be busy all freaking day. There's going to be a line outside. It's going to be packed inside. It's going to be packed outside. And so here's to good weather and a great College World Series in 2025.